Okay, the final unit in Year 7 is then the reproduction unit. Right, there's 6 changes to a female at puberty. They will then start to produce eggs, breasts will start to grow, pubic hair, periods will start, which kind of links in with the eggs, hips will widen, and thighs will get bigger. 6 changes to the males, right, they're similar-ish. Pubic hair, penis gets larger, become more muscular, voice deepens, facial hair, and sperms will then be produced. Right, so the female reproductive system. What we've got at the top here is we've got the fallopian tubes. Right? Sometimes they are then called the oviduct. Here we've got the uterus or the womb, sometimes I'll pronounce it womb. We've got the vagina, we've got the cervix, that's an I, C-E-R, oh, I'll write it underneath here, cervix, and here we've got ovary. Right, so pretty much what happens is an egg is produced in here, right, the egg travels down the fallopian tube, waiting for a sperm. If it gets a sperm, then what it does, it gets implanted here and the baby then grows into the uterus. If not, a period then happens, and then what happens is the period itself comes out of the cervix, out of the vagina. Okay, so labelling the male reproduction system, down here we've got the urethra. Okay, over here, scrotum. Okay, so that's there and it's over to there. We've then got testes, we've got prostate gland, we've got, I'm just going to write this up here, they're called seminal vesicles. We've got the sperm duct, and then we've got the penis. Okay, so the way that it works is sperms are produced in the testes. I'll change the colour. What colour shall I do? I'll do green. Sperms are produced in the testes, and what they do is the testes are then enclosed in the scrotum. Testes then produce the sperm, and the sperm go down this tube here, which is called the sperm duct. They then pick up liquids, right, from the seminal vesicles and the prostate, and then what they do is they then come out of the penis. Now the reason why I put urethra on this one is because it's the same tube here for weeing and for sperms to come out. They're both connected. Because here is to the kidneys and the bladder. Let's put bladder. Now you don't need to label that, right, but that kind of highlights exactly what's going on. Draw and label an egg cell, right, so what an egg cell has got, it's got a nucleus, so I've got an area around the outside, and then I'm just going to go wiggle, 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 wiggle. Right, so the bit in the middle is the nucleus, which contains 23 chromosomes. The yellow bit is then the membrane, so it's the cell membrane. That bit there is the cytoplasm. And the blue bit, all the way around the outside, is kind of a bit like a jelly coat, even though it's not really a jelly coat. Okay, but that's kind of the part around the outside of the egg itself. Draw and label the sperm. Okay, so what you've got sperm, it's got its tail, right, and here you've then got kind of the neck. Inside there, we've got the nucleus. There, we've got lots of mitochondria to provide energy. And there, we've then got a tail. Okay, and I guess I should really put in there, that's the head of the sperm. Now with this one, because there's lots of labels on it that you then need to know, label the diagram of the developing baby. Right, we've already talked about some of these already, so that is where the egg comes down from the fallopian tube. Alright, inside here, what we've got is we've got the amnion and we've got the amniotic fluid. So the amnion is kind of like the bag around the outside, so this area here is the bag around the outside. Inside there, there's then amniotic fluid, which is what the baby then grows in. This is a fetus, which is then developing into the baby. And also in the amnion, what we've got is got loads and loads of blood vessels. At the bottom here, we've got the vagina, and then we've got the cervix. So the cervix is kind of holding everything in place. It kind of closes up. On the left-hand side, what we've got is we've got the wall of the uterus, which is the womb. The placenta is the part of the body that develops in the woman that provides all the kind of nutrients. And from the placenta to the fetus is the umbilical cord, which is like the cord that then comes out at the end. List the substances that pass through the placenta, right, and which way they move in or out of a baby. Right, so what we're talking about here now is we're talking about substances that go in. I'm just going to put oxygen goes in, water goes in, vitamins, nutrients, proteins, you know, all those different things go in. Bad things that go in, drugs, many drugs will go in, alcohol will go in, and potential viruses will go in. Okay, that's why the mother has to be careful. Coming out from the baby, CO2, there's also a bit of water that's produced, and waste products. Okay. Right, so what I'm doing here is I'm doing a little bit of a cheat again, having the labels on. So what we've got on the outside, we've got the pretty petals that are then there designed to attract insects. All this part here are the female parts, where you've got the stigma, the style and the ovary, and that all comes together to be called the carpel. At the bottom here, this is then the ovary, and each one of those little lines inside there is an ovule. So what happens is the stigma here, right, so I'll do it in black, that'll stand out a bit better. The stigma here receives the pollen. The pollen travels down the style to the ovary, which is then when kind of like fertilization has happened. I don't know why we've got peduncle there, we could call it stem. Receptacle is where the actual kind of parts are then kept. Sepal or sepal is the kind of the outer casing before the actual flower opened. Over here we've got the male bits. So the male bits is the stamen, and what we've got is we've got the filament, which is kind of like the tube that holds the anther. The anther at the top there is the bit that then produces the pollen. Right, and what you need to do is you need to then be able to label each one of the individual parts. List the factors that affect the rate of germination. So germination is then how fast a seed will then develop. Main ones are the amount of oxygen, the temperature, and the amount of water. Okay, so they will affect the rate of germination. 5 methods of seed dispersal. We've got wind, right, so some seeds will then spread in the wind. We've got animals, whether animals eat them or they stick to their coat. We've got them dropping in water. We've also got some that will literally explode and spray their seeds everywhere, and then humans also help with seed dispersal. Keywords, say 3. A period of time when a child changes into an adult is adolescence. A ball of cells that forms from a fertilised egg divides is the embryo. The name given to an unborn baby from 8 weeks of development is a fetus. So it's an embryo right at the very start, and after 8 weeks it then becomes a fetus. Right, now in this there's lots of words. Right, and in biology and in science, what you've got to do is you've got to make sure you know the words. So if you're asked any question at all, you've got to make sure you're using the correct terminology, like stamen, like carpal, like placenta. All right, it's important that the words are then the right thing that is then used. You've watched that, you filled it in. Now what you do is you go to the blank one, and with that blank one, then what you do is you test yourself and make sure you know it all.